computer. There we go. There we go. So we'll start the webinar now. I'm glad to see everybody. Hi, Alex, Theater Operations Coordinator at Me4 Hall. Thanks for coming. So if you can't hear, try turning up your speaker volume or use your headphones. And if you have any questions at all, there will be an opportunity to ask questions at the end of the session. And at that time, please use the chat function. Should we run out of time, I will try to send written answers to all the participants with the other downloadable content that we'll be sending at the end of the session. If you have any technical questions, Kira from Ontario Presents is here to help. Just post your concern in the chat function and hopefully we can address it. After the webinar, the following will be sent to everybody. The presentation slides that we're working on today, a full document from seed to season in a PDF format if you don't already have it, and a recording of this webinar. So before I start anything else, I'd like to make a land acknowledgement. We honor the past, the present, and the future stewards of the land, and we recognize that we have a shared responsibility for the reconciliation and decolonization, as well as stewardship of this natural environment. Ontario Presents also specifically recognizes the legacy of colonization embedded in many aspects of the performing arts sector, including technologies, structures, and the ways of thinking we're using every day. Until recently, many Indigenous communities were legally prevented from practicing their own cultural and artistic traditions. And even to this day, Indigenous people still have less access to the performing arts, both as audiences and artists. Other barriers, such as the cost and physical accessibility, also disproportionately impact Indigenous people. Actively dismantling the colonial approaches embedded in our work and our tools is critical to reconciliation and Indigenous resurgence. I encourage you all to go to nativeland.ca to learn more about the ancestral lands in which we live and determine how we can all together be part of a larger conversation about reconciliation and decolonization. I personally live in Oakville, Ontario, originally home of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Arawandran, and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. My relationship to this territory is felt in the mornings when I walk next to the Bronte Creek through the Moccasin Trail. Dotted along this pathways are beautiful Indigenous stories and illustrations that give thanks to Mother Earth, water, life plants, and animals native to my neighborhood. It really provides me with a wonderful opportunity to reflect on and appreciate our shared lands. This webinar is an overview of the digital document From Seed to Season, How to Grow as a New Young Audience Presenter. The document was written to support new and emerging presenters in rural, remote, and underserved communities to achieve their vision of connecting artists with children and youth in their community. The document shares various benchmarks necessary for developing a young audience presenting series or organization. Now, this document is really meant to be a useful toolkit or a resource library that offers meaningful information and practical resources. It is intended to support presenters wherever they are in their journey, their level of experience, their volunteer support, and community involvement. Therefore, this afternoon, we are going to have an overarching look at its contents, and I'll provide some real-world examples in which the content can be used to further your presenting journey. So here we go. To the left is a sample of the e-document From Seed to Season. As you can see, there are digital links embedded throughout the document to direct readers to additional information. Since everyone accesses and absorbs information differently, we've included various icons to highlight how the digital information can be accessed. There's infographics, PDFs, webinars, videos, websites, something for everybody. The document has been designed as if each chapter were building blocks. There are no rules to say you must follow the document sequentially, but here's the reasoning behind the format. First, the chapter 1 introduces the who and the what of presenting. Chapter 2 introduces how leadership, values, and knowing one's community influences the whole presenting journey. Chapter 3 introduces the need for reflective planning and strategizing. Chapter 4 gives examples of various strategies for starting a presenting series. Chapter 5 highlights the various non-performance aspects of presenting. Chapter 1 is called Seeding. This chapter provides a very basic understanding of the presenting ecology and the impact of the performing arts. It talks about the role of the presenter. It talks about impact of young audience performances on the community and the impact of arts and culture on children. So it's vitally important to fully understand the roles and responsibilities of a presenter and how this presenting season unfolds at the very beginning of the presenting journey. This knowledge will help volunteers and leadership manage expectations, time commitments, and minimize burnout. In the document, there's an Appendix A and B, which offers a sample list of roles and responsibilities for a presenter. Now, young audience performances not only contribute to a child's cultural development, they can also impact local businesses, increase the health and well-being of a community, and build audiences for the future. Further information on the impact of the performing arts can be found in Chapter 1 and used to help recruit volunteers and inspire community collaborators. In addition to the impact on the wider community, presenters need to be versed on the impact of arts and culture on children and youth. Resources found in the e-document can help convince otherwise skeptical funders, sponsors, and partners to work with you on this journey. They just need to be inspired by your knowledge and by your conviction. As presenters, it's your responsibility to share how arts and culture impact children in your community. Not only do you need to be familiar with that statistical information, but how arts experiences impact cognitive development, but you also need to shout out loud that our young audiences are capable of big feelings, understanding detailed narratives, and processing personal and societal issues with empathy and resilience. In the e-document, Appendix D is a one-pager that clearly communicates the impact of arts and culture on children and youth. Hand this out to your municipal council, your local community foundation, or a neighboring business to encourage funding, sponsorship opportunities, donations, and any other type of community involvement. Chapter 2 is about it explores the foundational work required before any of the programming and ticketing begins. It's about leadership, knowing your own why and values, and understanding your community. Good leadership is one of the foundational blocks of your presenting experience. A good presenting leader needs not only artistic skills, but also administrative, technical, interpersonal, and communication skills too. The document provides a handy list of skill sets for leaders and templates for job descriptions. Now, understanding why you want to start your presenting series and determining what your organization values are a vital first step. Use the exercises in the document to help clarify your why and to pinpoint a set of values that are important to the leadership and the team. Often in our haste to book shows, plan events, and sell tickets, we actually forget who we're presenting for. So this document provides useful steps to gain more information about your very own community. This research can be used when appealing to a specific group, an association, businesses, or individuals for different types of collaboration and partnerships. One of the most important initial steps of being a new presenter is asking the world's simplest question. Why? What's your reasoning, your motivation, or your origin story? Why do you want to start presenting for young audiences in the first place? When a presenter understands their individual and collective why, all other aspects of building a presenting series will be more focused, articulated, and better executed. Your why will inform how you create your vision and your mission and will be reflected in all things like programming, marketing, and so much more. Chapter 3 is called Growing. This chapter highlights how meaningful planning is integral to the presenting journey. In addition to the planning, it talks about consensus building and crafting your vision, mission, and objectives. Good planning is not just for budgets, timelines, schedules, and events, but also for planning how we're going to engage one another with empathy and humility. The document provides many resources on how to embed equity, diversity, inclusion, accessibility, and decolonization efforts in all decision-making processes going forward. And since young audience presenters usually work within a larger volunteer team, an organization or council, working within a mindset of consensus is not only valuable, but essential. The document provides some useful tips for your team or your group to develop a spirit of consensus where success is achieved when the whole, not just the majority, benefits. Since Chapter 2 helped define your why and values, Chapter 3 will take a step further and guide the reader to infuse those priorities into building your vision, mission, and objectives. The document offers a useful worksheet to help presenters brainstorm their own vision, mission, and objective statements. So as it says in Chapter 3, we explore how to integrate all those foundational elements in Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 into various strategies, so your aspiration of presenting comes a reality. But admittedly, it's actually really hard to develop strategies for something you've never done before and have limited knowledge of. So therefore, the upcoming Chapter 4 explores 9 sample strategies that can be or could be implemented by any new young audience presenter. So after reviewing the 9 sample strategies, hopefully new presenters will be better positioned to develop and devise their own strategies and build realistic and meaningful action plans to realize their own vision and mission for their organization. So these are the 9 strategies. There's team building, budgeting and sustainability, building audiences, venue and technical elements, programming and curatorial decision-making, ticketing, marketing, front of house, and the agent and the connection between artists, agents, managers, and the presenter. These sample strategies may not all be needed by all presenters. For example, if you're already associated with a theater venue, you might already have some strategies covered for ticketing and front of house and technical elements. And additionally, you may have a strategy that's not listed above, but is more important for your specific series, your audience, and your community. The above list is just a suggestion. It's by no means the rule. So going to Chapter 4, the first strategy is the team. This strategy highlights that volunteers are your best and brightest champions. It talks about the value of volunteering, how to engage volunteers, incorporating volunteer roles and responsibilities, and learning about leadership self-care. So first of all, volunteering is often the lifeblood of a presenting organization, and their varied skills sets improve the organization's capacity. The document shares resources on the benefits of volunteering and shares expertise on how to increase volunteer participation and engagement. Since volunteers are so important to the success and diversity of the volunteer organization, it's imperative to understand how to maximize that volunteer experience. The document suggests ways in which a presenter can prepare for and manage their volunteer team even before the recruitment process begins. Now, of course, successful volunteering depends on crafting and communicating specific volunteer roles and responsibilities. The document offers sample lists of volunteer skill sets, some responsibilities, and a really good sample template for creating your own volunteer role description. Leading a presenting group as a volunteer yourself, while managing other volunteers and maintaining a healthy work-life balance is an ongoing challenge. The document lists many excellent self-care resources and associations that can support new presenters on this journey. As mentioned, before recruiting of any volunteers takes place, it's imperative for the leadership team to define the volunteer skill sets and role descriptions and responsibilities required to accomplish what needs to get done. But admittedly, it's difficult creating role descriptions, again, for positions when you have very limited knowledge of how presenting works. Therefore, it's recommended that presenters take a deep breath and review all the sample strategies and all the accompanying task lists for each strategy that are available in the appendices in order to determine what needs to be done, when, and by whom. The second strategy is called the money, and this strategy is about becoming financially sustainable so your presenting series thrives. It'll talk about planning, budget elements, funding sources, and the ever so great grant writing. The strategy of financial sustainability isn't just about getting money. It's about building a plan that ensures your presenting series thrives for generations to come. The document provides excellent learning resources on financial management using practical tools for creatives. Unfortunately, for many presenters, it's unrealistic to assume that ticket sales alone will cover the expense side of your budget. Therefore, building a budget with multiple revenue streams is advisable. In the document, there's a simple budget template that is included to help you build your budget. I know, as it just mentioned, since ticket sales rarely cover all the expenses, finding alternative funding sources is an essential task for all presenters. Additional revenue can come from municipal, provincial, federal grants, foundations, sponsorships, and individual donations. The document provides links to various funding sources. Now, most presenters will have to apply for a grant at some point in their journey. Grant writing doesn't have to be an arduous task. Think about it as a formalized way of telling others what your organization is about, what you want to do, how it benefits your community, and what you need financially to make it happen. Tell the funders your story. Budgeting will actually become an essential element of your presenting responsibilities. Rest assured, there are many resources available that can speak directly to your nonprofit volunteer-driven needs. For example, workingculture.ca has exceptional learning modules and lesson plans on financial management. GeneratorTO.com provides theory and practical tools to teach the financial management fundamentals to creatives. And of course, the resource section on the Ontario Presents website offers an excellent webinar dedicated to budgeting, cash flow, revenues, expenses, and more, just for presenters. So the next strategy is the child. And this strategy is about using research and listening to your community to build the child audience. Developing a consistent and reliable audience base is the goal of any presenter. But building an audience where none previously exists requires extra care and vigilance. This document encourages presenters to reach out to their community and ask some really pointed questions at the outset. Use the community assessment list that was created in Chapter 2 to start this process. Asking all sorts of questions of your community is useless if you're not ready and willing to implement the answers in your decision-making process. Therefore, the document lists various sample Feely and number questions that it also provides resources on how to conduct surveys, interviews, and questionnaires, all of which will help during this essential research process. All this talk of community research is another way of saying listen, learn, and lean on the knowledge of your community partnerships. Listen to the voice of your community. Remember that you are presenting for and with them. This section relies on building of audiences, actually relies heavily on the community assessment the community assessment list that you completed in Chapter 2. So now's the time to take out that list and ask some very specific questions that will help you learn more about your community. So back in the document in Appendix I, they offer some really good sample questions. Some of the questions would be like, what type of performing arts would you like to experience? That's a good question to ask. And the answer to this question will help you hire artists that connect with your children and their families. Another good question to ask might be, how do you want to interact with a performing arts organization that offers performances for children? And then the answer to this question might help you determine what kind of pre-show or even post-show activities or outreach you might want to offer. Remember that the research done early in the presenting planning process will inform many decisions down the road. For example, this research will help you choose programming, design marketing materials, set ticket prices, and develop meaningful outreach activities. Strategy 4, the venue. This strategy will talk about venue basics, venue inventory, technical production, and understanding technical writers. The e-document lists the very minimum venue requirements for hosting a young audience performance. But remember, performances for young audiences don't necessarily need traditional spaces. They can often perform in parks, heritage sites, community centers, libraries, schools. Anything is whatever is your imagination. A venue inventory is a description of your venue and its technical capabilities. A venue inventory will list the dimensions of your stage, audience configuration, lighting, and sound equipment that's available, or in some cases, not available. This inventory can be shared with your visiting artists. A venue inventory template is provided in the document. As a presenter, it's unlikely you will have to set up microphones and lighting, but it is important to have a basic understanding of the technical capabilities and limitations of your venue. The document includes educational links to theater technical terms, lighting, and sound basics. And lastly, the understanding the technical writer. Now, a technical writer is a document provided by the artist that shares technical, touring, and accommodation requirements of a touring artist or company. And the e-document offers great resources that explain the various components of this technical writer for you. So in this strategy, it also discusses a policy called relaxed performances that some may or may not be familiar with. Relaxed performances are characterized by being radically accessible and welcoming to children and their caregivers. Historically, relaxed performance protocols were introduced in theater for children and individuals with cognitive or physical disabilities and those who are neurodiverse. Understandably, new and emerging presenters can't implement all aspects of a relaxed performance, but making a few adjustments can make a huge difference. When you're working with work with your technicians and your performers to keep the lights and sound at a reduced level, especially if you're presenting to early years or very, very young audiences. Announce before the show how families can easily leave the performance space to access a quiet zone if necessary, without guilt or judgment. Strategy 5, the talent. This strategy is about programming, the curatorial decision-making for your young audience. It talks about the uniqueness of young audience programming, where to find artists and company, contracting, and negotiating. So young audiences thrive in a cultural environment that is sensory, responsive, and reflective of the world they live in. And a presenter's primary responsibility is to be educated and prepared to curate high-quality performing arts for their audience and community. The document defines what is programming and curatorial decision-making. And the document also provides a great list of organizations and associations who have experience with artists and companies specializing in young audience work. Seeing young audience performances live is always the best, and the document provides information on various conferences, networking events, and festivals that you can attend. If travel is an issue, many artists have websites with trailers or full-length show videos upon request. Lastly, the process of contracting the services of an artist and negotiating a fair and equitable performance fee is dependent on whether you're working with a presenting network or independently. Either way, the e-document lists various PDFs and webinars that guide you through the contract process. One of the biggest challenges of any new presenter, regardless of location or experience, is where to find the talent. The document provides a starter list of artists and companies, conferences, festivals, and agents who specialize in work for early years, children, and youth. It is so important to try to go out and see a performance live to determine if the work is suitable for your audience, compatible with your venue and technical capabilities, or even if it's within your financial limitations. Most importantly, go back and revisit Chapter 2, the exercise sheet for defining your why, and your values checklist. Take a look and see as you're looking at new work and see if you are still aligned with these foundational concepts. Have you strayed from your initial intentions? Are your values being reflected in your programming? These are all questions to ask of yourself and your team when you're looking at work. Strategy 6, the sell. This strategy discusses the 4 questions of ticketing. And before I do, I need to have a glass of water. So as I said, it discusses the 4 questions of ticketing. What type of tickets to sell? Are they going to be individual tickets, family packs, subscription series, or a combination of all 3? The how are you going to sell your tickets? Are you going to use a box office? Are you going to solely use online sales? Are you going to have physical tickets being available to sell in the community? And how much? How much are your tickets going to cost? And how much can your community support? What are the artist's expenses in relationships to expected earned revenue? These are all questions to ask. And then lastly, when are you going to start selling your tickets? Oops. Ticketing decision-making depends again on the research compiled in Strategy 3, Building Audiences. Remember, the sole reason for asking all those questions earlier was to help you make decisions in the future. Well, that future is now. Questions like, what barriers are keeping you and your children from attending performances, and how much are you willing to pay for a cultural experience for your children, all will help you figure out the cost of tickets and even accessibility concerns that need to be addressed. Maybe the biggest barrier isn't ticket prices. Maybe it's post-COVID hesitancy. Either way, then you know that you have more flexibility in pricing, but then you also need to know that you need to prioritize health and safety measures. Strategy 7 is about marketing, and this strategy stresses the importance of sharing your story with your audience and community. Talks about a marketing plan, storytelling, and choosing your tactics. All excellent marketing content in the world will be worthless if not supported and guided by a strong marketing plan. The document offers exceptional webinars and training modules on marketing basics for cultural organizations. Now, storytelling is a powerful tool and an excellent mechanism to connect with your community on an emotional level. Remember to refer to the research compiled earlier in Strategy 3. It will tell you again what motivates your community and what appeals to your younger generation. And you can use that research to inform what type of storytelling needs to be shared. Lastly, the document will help guide presenters in choosing appropriate tactics for their marketing content, whether it's using print materials, social media, or other more traditional methods. The document provides a series of webinars and videos on the fundamentals of email, digital, and social media marketing. For a new presenter trying to make first-time connection with their community, I recommend to go back again to Chapter 2 and revisit the parts about storytelling. A good story will help capture one's attention, it will build relationships and cultivate empathy. Furthermore, a really, really good story will motivate someone to action, maybe even to purchase a ticket. Therefore, the key to marketing in these early stages of presenting is to be authentic and to share with your community what is meaningful, really truly meaningful to you and your team. Share a story about your origin. Tell a story about why you and how the presenting series began. Tell something about your volunteers. What is the contribution of your volunteers now? And how can new volunteers be included in the future? Tell something about your community. How is the community being involved in your new presenting series or organization? There's lots of different stories that you can be shared. Now, Strategy 8 is all about front of house. Front of house covers all the various aspects of the audience experience from the time they enter the venue, during the performance, and after the show. Front of house has to deal with everything from safety and accessibility to land acknowledgements and concessions. So front of house volunteers are responsible for the health and safety of all who enter the venue, included but not limited to fire regulations, capacity limits, parking safety, and most importantly, first aid. Therefore, the document shares numerous resources on safety guidelines that are truly specific to the performance industry. Additionally, front of house volunteers are responsible for ensuring all patrons experience and enjoy the performance to the best of their unique abilities. The document offers various accessibility resources for theaters and other public spaces. The front of house considerations are especially important for those young audiences who may be experiencing a live performance for the very first time. This type of appreciation for the child audience should be demonstrated as soon as the families enter the venue and continue throughout the performance. Here are some ways that front of house volunteer or staff can accommodate families with young children. Yeah, you could provide a defined and accessible place to even park strollers while patrons are in the performance. You can provide accessible washrooms with emergency diaper accessories. It's both an excellent customer service and a unique sponsorship opportunity. You can conduct gentle pre-show announcements that share information about the show, audience expectations, and how children and their caregivers can leave should they need to. You can offer a designated quiet space. It's important to give permission to come and go freely without judgment should a child need to step away from the performance at any time and for whatever reason. Strategy 9, the connection. This strategy illustrates that clear and effective communication between the presenter and the artist, agent, or management is essential as an essential element of any performance or series. A performer package is a communication tool between the presenter and the visiting artist or company. Its intention is to make the touring experience more efficient for everyone. This package should be shared with the artist and or agent and with the presenting team to ensure that everyone is aware of their tasks and responsibilities. Now, a performer package contains many of the same items as the venue inventory, but concentrates more solely on what is required for the artist and company to be successful and supported. The document recommends various items to be included in that performer package. Touring artists traveling in underserved, remote, or rural areas often need additional support while away from their familiar surroundings and even their own families. Remember that the artist and the agent all want to have a successful tour as much as the presenter. A document such as this will go a long way in making a visiting artist feel welcome, supported, and appreciated. So now is the time to take all those strategies in chapter 1 and chapter 2 and putting it all together. This section encourages the reader to develop their own strategies and develop their own action plans that are meaningful to their unique situation, their own budget, their venue, audience, and community needs. So hopefully after reviewing the 9 sample strategies, a new presenter is better equipped to determine what strategies are best for them or what are not best for them. Maybe there's a strategy that's not already listed and something that is unique to your own community. So this part of the document provides a worksheet that guides the reader to fill in their own objectives that are from chapter 3 and to use those objectives to brainstorm their own unique strategies. Remember, strategies are the ways a presenter can achieve their objectives. In addition, there's an additional worksheet that is available to further develop an action plan. So readers are encouraged to fill in their newly devised strategies from the previous worksheet and answer the who will be the leader for that strategy, the when does it need to be completed, what tasks need to be done, and what partners are needed for each strategy. So chapter 5, as we're coming to the end of the document, explores the non-performance aspects of presenting and building a sustainable future. It talks about community engagement and audience engagement, and reviews the differences and familiarities between the two, and also gives excellent community examples of each. From Seed to Seas, it emphasizes the need to document the processes and practices of the organization to counterbalance the cycling in and out of new volunteers. The document offers 11 elements that are recommended to include in an organizational's handbook. And lastly, the document also encourages presenters to go out and find those folks who they've interacted previously and ask them some really important invaluatory questions. Remember to always implement the results or questions or else they're meaningless. And lastly, oops, wrong one. The appendices. A good portion of this document is the appendices, and it offers the reader an extension to their learning experience. It offers additional lists, calendars, templates, advocacy documents, glossaries. And so I do encourage everybody to look at that portion of the document and review what is essential to your learning curve. I want to thank everyone for taking this time out of their busy day to learn more about presenting for young audiences. And I'd also like to thank the Department of Canadian Heritage for their financial assistance for this document. And also a sincere thank you to Kira for all your help and support on this webinar. Should you have any additional questions after reviewing the document or the slide deck, feel free to reach out to me at joanne2@gmail.com and I'll try to answer any of your questions. And if you know of any volunteer groups, teams, organizations in your community or beyond who might be also interested in presenting, please share this slide deck. If you haven't already, I encourage you to go onto Ontario Presents website and look at their information on From Seed to Season and their other essential presenting resources. There's lots of them there. Last but not least, mark your calendars. I invite everyone to our next webinar session, A Time to Explore. Now, this will be on Wednesday, February 21st, same time at 1 o'clock. At this point, we are going to be choosing 2 or 3 specific elements from the document in order to do a deeper dive. Today was an overview. Next session in February will be a deeper dive on at least 2 or 3 key elements. And if there's something that you are interested in learning a little bit more about and having a more fulsome conversation, drop me a line by email and we'll see if that could be included into our next session. So now we have a little bit of time, and if you feel comfortable, place your questions in the chat functions. I will turn off the recording and we can have a little question and answer time, and hopefully I'll be able to answer your questions. If not, I'll get back to you. And if you don't have time and you need to go, just feel free to email me at a later time.